Okay, take it away, thank you. Thank you. Now for my next number, I'm very pleased to have on the show tonight a man who's been very close to me all these years, and a great performer, great entertainer, and a beautiful person. Has a lovely wife, 3 kids. He's going to sing for you now. That great old... Take it away, Sam Costa. Thank you, Max. It's been nice, Max.
Your identity.
Me money. My identity or my life. God. Sweaty armpits. Ha! Okay. Princess Anne especially asked that there should be no Anne on her weak side. Thank you. Spotty side. God, it's terrifying. You may need it. You may need the sleeping capacity. All right. Playing to the monitor like Patrick Campbell. Aha. Well, Peter asked me to do a chat, and I was in the AA the other day and I saw a notice saying that it was to be a cheerful chat. And I thought, he means he wants my slideshow again. And then I thought maybe some of these guys have seen my slideshow. I have this great slideshow, which is full of remorse and surprise about the number of things that don't get built. And I have this great act which goes, and then I did this, and then they asked me to do that, and then they didn't build it because like that, and then everybody sniggers. So anyway, I thought it would be much more cheerful, much less, in fact, it turns out to be much less cheerful, if I showed you what I actually do, what I actually do, really do, what I really actually do building. And this is my kind of last year's work. And this is sort of real jobs. And in fact, I mean, I'm keen to give a cheerful chat. I'm as keen as the next man to give a cheerful chat, but I got terribly depressed about all this when I was collecting it together, all my work, and I suddenly realised how little I've done in a year, and really how ordinary it all is, and how kind of... In fact, I've got very remorseful about it all, and have decided to retitle the lecture, What Happens to People Who Try and Stay Out of Architects' Offices After They Leave the AA, and haven't got enough contacts and aren't very pushy. What happens to people also who allow builders and so on to roughshod over them and so on, but I won't show you that. In fact, these are organised in a rather elegant way across the wall, which is the ones that are more likely to be photographed are at this end, and the ones that are less likely ever to be photographed are at that end. I think that's one of the best ways of arranging the talk. Some of them fall or drop and come up and down the league as they go along. But unfortunately, I haven't got a camera, and I seem to get all these jobs out of London. And since I haven't quite got the kind of elan yet, people don't hurry out. Students don't hurry out and knock on the door and say, "Can I photograph it, please?" That would be good. I mean, you know, if you find it in the Yale slide library when you hadn't actually sent the guy. Anyway, I haven't got a camera, so I have to show you the drawings. And anyway, I hate the pictures of things before they're done. This sort of thing, how it's being built. You know, I mean, my buildings aren't built interestingly enough really to merit that. So, I'm slightly imagining you saw the slideshow. I don't think it'll make any difference, but I kind of like to think that you've seen the cheerful Piers Gough. The Piers Gough of the big scheme, the Piers Gough of the big gesture. And this is Piers Gough of the client with the 5 children. This is the client with the 5 children. Right. Now this is one that's actually has been built. I mean, it's all but done. Smart radiators, the whole lot. Anyway, I have to do what I have to do, which is, there's only one thing I can do. I'm not a polemical architect. I can't talk about, you know, my stand, my manifesto against the faceless architecture of the present, my stand against steel and glass, my stand against immaculate modern movement activities, and so on. All I can ever think of doing is sort of taking you round it. So, you see, you have to take it or leave it as they come. I'm just going to describe them, and really just to say that they're pretty ordinary, really. Perhaps I'll talk about that at the end. This is a house for a guy who had a house like this, and here it is. It's very nice in a Quaker village, and this is actually the design. The other 2 efforts come into my famous slideshow, and this is what actually I had to. You see, it's not shown in the famous slideshow because they're not famous really, and it's a building that wraps around a kind of existing crummy extension which he had on already, and houses 4 of his children. Doesn't want my work. It wants to be in another room, but and they have in section a room on the ground floor and a bunk balcony. It's terribly architectural. Bunk balcony up here where they sleep, you see, and they have a ladder, presumably, between the 2. And the bunk's 4 foot wide because that's the width of plywood and things like that. And the rooms go around here and they're divided with partitions that take away. And what interests me is the way that I have immediately gone for symmetry. This room, well, where they can be, the rooms are symmetrical. And in fact, I went to a lot of trouble to get this partition in the right place so that distance was equal to that distance, and that distance was equal to that distance, and that distance was equal to that distance, and so on, and so on. And it all meets on the corner, and it's all very architectural. But of course, once the builder gets hold of that, he doesn't mind about the thing quite meeting on the corner, because it's a bit of bother, because well, Ronnie put the thing in, you see, and it wasn't quite. So I told him anyway. The only interesting feature, perhaps, is this bathroom. The planners couldn't believe it. I said, Brian Rick's bathroom, and they rung me up. They said, what do you mean, Brian Rick's bathroom? What's that mean? What do we not know about this? So I said, oh, it's perfectly all right. You just relax. Just read the plans. It's all right. Everything's all right. But anyway, it is a Brian Rick's bathroom. It's got 6 doors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 doors. 6 doors. Anyway, it's got plenty of doors. And, well, yeah, so that's enough said about that. That's the bathroom, right. Yeah. It's all in the middle here, you see. 2 basins. And it's sort of fairly institutional, really. If you will have enough children to fill a school, I think you deserve to have an institutional bathroom. These are the elevations. This is the see this? Pepper pot? Well, I just sort of did it again and brought it down a bit. You see, I call that mannered architecture. In fact, it's just fucking fiddly and ordinary. But when I was doing it, I thought, wow, I'm doing mannered architecture. I'm taking what's there and I'm fucking about with it. I really thought I was going places, and I moved that window, see, slightly off the centre. Put another one in. Oh, wow. But of course, that doesn't really. You suddenly realise it doesn't really matter too much. One way or the other, it's sort of unnoticeable. But anyway, I got a terribly nice letter from the village committee. It's in a village, and they wrote me a terribly nice letter saying, it's a credit to the designer. Unbelievable. I'm composing a letter back which consists of, if the designer was so creditable, why didn't you accept the first 2 designs I did? But I thought perhaps that was a little bit facetious. it was more a pat on the back for them, I think, that they'd not allowed my first two and had allowed the third one. It was a sort of credit to their taste. Right, so that's so nearly built that I might have to take my camera next time. Okay, now this one is another actual building job which is nearly built, and I may have to take my camera next time. And there's a farmhouse. There's a farmhouse in Lincolnshire which looks like that. Actually, hasn't got that window, but it looks like that. And this guy was given it by his father. I mean, it's so embarrassing, isn't it? God, people you have to mix with. He was given it by his father. I'm going to a party of his afterwards. I better be fairly polite. He didn't like it. I mean, this is really wild. His father said, "You can have the house and make any kind of additions you want to it, and so on at your own expense, of course, my son." And he was given this house, and he admitted to me that he really didn't like any of it. He didn't really like the rooms very much. He didn't really like the house very much. But could I make some small addition to it that might improve it? Just a little. So just bring the roof over a bit, perhaps, and put a couple more rooms in. It would all be all right. So he said a little extension. Then he said, well, we'd quite like a new kitchen, a new nursery, and a bedroom, and another bedroom, a guest bedroom perhaps, and a bathroom, of course. And the list got quite long. And so then I prompted him a bit and said, of course, you need a billiards room, you know. Anyone who lives in Lincolnshire must have a billiards room. They'll get anywhere in society. And so he said, billiards room, of course. But of course, I already had in mind the fact that I wanted to turn it into a kind of small French chateau. This is the house as it is, with its kind of box out here, and this is what I like to think, you know, I mean, innocence to the fore. I like to think is my little French chateau. It's a kind of twin, it's sort of two towers. It started off with kind of two towers, and they kind of just became very plainly, in a way, joined together. I think if I'd been properly mannered, I would have left a little more hint of the sort of the essential two-toweriness of it, and been a little less bland about just sort of coolly joining it up. But anyway, I didn't. I just let it go. And on the ground floor, he's got a kitchen here, and a nursery there, and a bit that goes up a bit, and a few steps up. And he sits there having his breakfast. This is the east over here. This is the north this way. And then there was already this garage, and he was terribly keen to keep the garage. He thought that was real economy. If he could just keep that garage, everything would be all right. The fact that I was wasting money like mad here wouldn't worry him at all, as long as he could keep the garage. I had to knock a bit off it. He used to come out here. And so I had this really nice thing which I could just add on a few shacks on the end, and even Peter thought that they were already there when he saw the drawings. And the idea is, it looks like it sort of breaks here down to being a utility room, you know, and all the sort of things that should just be lean-tos and shouldn't really become too much of the house. I put in a larder, because I always like larder. Whether the lady of the house will like a larder, of course, is by the way. She's got a nice built-in kitchen. It's funny, they'll let you do anything. They'll let you do anything. Any building you like, well, nearly. But they won't let you choose their kitchen units. They won't let you even see the kitchen units they're going to choose till they get there. They say, oh, you'll see them, they're terribly nice. So I wrote to the kitchen unit people, I said, look, please put the kitchen units here where I say. So they said, we haven't got any curved kitchen units. You go to hell. Anyway, so then on the first floor there's their bedroom here. And a bathroom, and another room for sleeping in, and there's a balcony all the way round the outside round here, which on the elevation is there. And they really thought they were in for a Regency. Actually, it doesn't look like that at all. It's very odd. It looks terribly sort of Edwardian or something on the drawing. In fact, in reality, it doesn't actually. It looks just like a French chateau, in fact. I assure you. It's exceedingly in keeping with with chateaus the world over. Put some things around the windows, punch them out a bit, paint them dark blue, you see, and then have the rest of the houses all painted another colour. It's all plastered and painted like chateaus. And this is the billiards room at the top. You can't have stairs in the middle of it, in the middle of the bar. And the windows are so low that you can't see out of them until you either crouch down to play your shot, or you're sitting down. It's one of these things like, oh, what a nice view. You see, you miss your shot. And then the man of the house wins. You see that? But it's interesting because, I actually had to do some work. This constitutes hard work. And these drawings, I just couldn't believe how long they took me. I mean, I took a week doing these two, I think. Fantastic. These are easy, just do those in a few days. But these, well, the builder's got to build it, and the carpenter, and just think of all the things you can do wrong. You really have to spell it out. Especially when it's in Lincolnshire and it's a long way away. There's some sort of turn of the century stuff, which I turn on at a moment's notice when I can't think of anything else to do. All drawn in. This is my little bit of sort of surrealist Italian corridor with the doors. Actually, they're only linen cupboards, but they're supposed to kind of amaze in some way. Do the dining room and the other room, and anyway, that's going to be photographed pretty soon, I think. Another job. Now, this really amazes me. This is really my most famous job because I actually took an entire week to design a bathroom. It took me one whole solid working week to just do this. I don't mean the outside of it. I don't mean the outside of the bathroom. No, I designed that. It was the inside that took a week. And this is what I got. I just came up with this. It took me a whole week. It was really hard work. It was incredible. And they said, well, couldn't we get a dressing room and a bathroom in there? I said, that took me a week. So I decided to up my bill. Anyway, this is a house. This is a house in Ember Lane, which is Kingston, Surrey, terribly nice. Terribly nice. Hampton Court, And just take the tube to Hampton Court, they said. Fine. And they got this house with a garage, and they just wanted a bathroom over the garage. It's quite normal. Bathroom over the garage. Still, I was thinking of myself as a managed architect. And they got a bit of half tutoring, so I've done my bit of half tutoring on the side. That's all I did. That's all I did to that house. That's a whole job. That took me 2 or 3 weeks to design. It's terrible, isn't it? And this is what you end up doing, you see, if you're me. You just end up doing this kind of thing. Here's another job. Somebody in Westbourne Grove. Mr. Alistair Best. Design critic extraordinary. He wanted an extension on the back of his house. Just a couple of rooms, banged on behind the staircase, quite small, and a greenhouse on the back of his kitchen, basically. And he had a separate tenant downstairs, so he had to keep it fairly open. You know how people do in London when they're trying to pay off their mortgage. So I designed this, and I thought, the Georgians wouldn't have minded it. They might, if they had that sort of glass system, they might have done it. What's it called? Patent glazing, they might have done that. And I put in a nice arch, which was kind of came up and out all at once. And I thought that, well, I can't object to that. I mean, it's London stock brick, it's perfectly all right. And the planning officer said that it wasn't coherent with the other backs of the other houses. So I said, well, I sort of agree, because they've taken all the backs of all the other houses off, because it's a development, and they've taken all the backs clean off, and they're going to obviously do something new. And he said, well, they are going to do something new. In fact, they're going to put extensions on the backs of all the houses in the row, because they've bought the whole of the rest of the row, right up from here, right, another 10 houses along there, and they're going to put these blocks on the back, rectangular blocks. I said, oh. He said, we want you to be coherent with those. I said, you want me to be coherent at the back of the house? He said, yes, we want you to be coherent at the back of the house. So I said, okay, right, show me, come on. Let's show me what I've got to do. He said, I can't show you, it's not allowed. I'm not allowed to show you the proposals for the other houses. So I said, well, look, I tell you what, I'll allow them to do mine. You can show them mine, and they can do that. That's all right with me. You know, I don't care. I'm not proud. They can certainly do my backs if they want to. You can show them my drawings. He said, well, I'm afraid they got those in first, and I'm not allowed to show you theirs, and you'll have to be coherent with them. So it's unbelievable conversation. I really couldn't believe it. So he said, well, I'll give you a hint. So I said, look. I said, if my client had wanted you to design it, he would have rung you up and asked you. He's very magnanimous. I said, but he wanted me. And I got very belligerent and very nasty, and I said, look, I'm fucking good, and you're a load of rubbish. I was so cross. I said, I know any committee would understand. I said, I'm putting this in. I don't care what you say. I'm putting this in for planning permission. And sure enough, 2 months later, I got back a letter saying, the committee consider that the proposed extension is not coherent with the backs of the other buildings. So much for me taking on Westminster. I can't ever, if you live in Westminster and want a house designed by me, forget it. I've burnt my boats there. Let's hope they haven't heard about it anywhere else yet. I'm sure they're all so self-centered, those places. They wouldn't dare to pass on the news to anybody else. You know. They wouldn't tell anybody anything, I don't think. So, anyway, he didn't get that. And in fact, brave client, he sold the house and moved. I think that's a real gesture. He said, fuck it, I'm not going to live next to these horrible people with their nasty extensions. I'm selling this to them, and I'm going to Blenheim Crescent. And he went to Blenheim Crescent, and he doesn't need anything doing, because they're much nicer in Blenheim Crescent, and he's perfectly happy. Doesn't need me anymore. End of job. Right, this one would be well up the photographic scale if I hadn't just seen the tiling man this afternoon. This is his tiling diagram. This is a real screw up. This I think this comes from the slideshow as well. It's a house which I've designed and designed and designed again. Now this one, it's not the planning people who dislike it. It's the client doesn't dare send it to the planning people because they dislike him, which is, I suppose, slightly different angle on the old theme. And he's got a garage here and a utility room or something, and he wants to put a dining room in the whole of the bottom and build a great big extension on top, which is all this bit here. In fact, the whole thing, and I designed it kind of coming out over here with balconies and God knows what, and going off over here with all in a curve, and that was angled actually, it was faceted all around here. Anyway, he didn't dare show them that. So he said, why don't we build it rectangular and then you do a Gough on it and put in all those wild-shaped rooms you do, you know. So that's what we've got. We have this rectangle, you see, with the wild-shaped rooms that you do. Unfortunately, this is another rather embarrassingly rich client, and he has a nanny, and the nanny has to have a square room because nannies, it's very hard to get nannies, and if nannies don't have square rooms, you know, you could be in grave trouble. So nanny has a square room, you see, that's quite, that's the idea anyway. It's quite true. I know you don't believe it, it's quite true. Especially Scottish nannies. I mean, they want economical rooms. So now, this is basically what it frightens me is how much symmetry there is in all my work now. I mean, it's getting pretty, I suppose that's sort of fascist pretension. But I mean, that building, I mean, every floor is symmetrical. I mean, jolly near, as near as you can make a thing symmetrical when it's tacked onto another house. I mean, and this is, I mean, you know, this bathroom, I mean, it's just dead symmetrical. It's unbelievable. This is the bathroom, with the bath looking out the corner, and a couple of basins and lavatory and a bidet. And this is the guest bedroom. I suppose those are the two that really have had the concentrated effort on them. With sort of corner windows, which is always nice to see builders look at you and say, corner window, eh? And then downstairs is this dining room, which took me about 2 or 3 weeks, I suppose, to draw up and dimension. It's all tiled and up, and sort of part of the way up the walls on a slope. This is really making up for a shot which I showed in my slideshow, which was knocked down, called Nitwit. And this is sort of trying to sort of not actually rebuild it again, but do something in tiles, a lot of tiles, and it's sort of built up in steps for display and of china or whatever, and there's a sort of bit in the middle here which is the carving table, I suppose, whatever is the serving whatever, and a couple of doors, rather mannered, I like to think, of course. It's a mirror either side, and this angled mirrors up the piers which are already there. Little lights behind all the way up, so it gets a little inch of light going right up and across. And that's that. And that the builder thinks I'm absolutely, completely off my head, unfortunately. It's a damn nuisance. But unfortunately, he's their builder, and he's been their builder for a long time, and there's not much way that they're going to change him. So, and they don't want to change me, so it's going to be quite a business, I think, altogether. This is a just thought I'd show you. This is a 6-foot parrot mirror that goes sort of above and behind the basins in that room, but you can just see the double end. His tail comes out underneath, and there's going to be a light tube which goes just in there, just where he would be standing on the perch. There's a light tube sticking out, help you shave. In fact, this is hinged here and here on the backing board and opens up to reveal, you know, the sort of brushes and all that kind of thing. A very nice mirror company, I must tell you. They're called Dorel, spelt like D-O-R-E-L-L, which is down the Hackney Road. And if you ever want a mirror cut, they're fantastic. They're so nice. They really are. They don't laugh at you at all. They're really nice about it. It's the only people I know that don't laugh at me. It's really nice. It's really lovely. It's so relaxing. They say, oh, yeah, yeah, so, no, I don't know. He says, I think you've got too many dome heads in there. He said, I don't think it'll look so good. It's really good, really nice. No laughing at all. It's quite serious. We get into the non-photographable section now. No hope section, I'm afraid. This is a studio which I designed for Alan Jones, who is a bit of a dab hand with the paintbrush. And he wanted a studio on top of his house. He told me that he could have a 40-foot by 16-foot studio or something. He worked it out. And this was knocking him out. He seems to really go for proportions and things. And he said, it's 40-foot. I've always wanted a 40-foot studio. He said, I can have it on top of my house. I worked it out. So I said, that sounds fine to me. I mean, I'd absolutely love to do a 40-foot studio on top of your house. He already has a studio at the back of the house, sort of on the ground floor and basement floor, but it's not very. It was designed by James Madge. It's lovely, honestly, it's beautiful. But he wanted a bigger one. And so the Jim Nidge one would have to become a sort of sitting room or something. And so I designed him a studio. This is the studio. It's a mansard roof with a north light bashed on top. There's this drawing especially to show the planners how crummy it looks when you have a mansard roof with a north light shoved on top, you see. It wouldn't really quite look like that at the back, but I've drawn it like that to show the planners how horrible it might look if I were to do it like that. And so it's necessary to sort of do something that kind of maybe just makes something of it. And so I designed this for the front here, which I think is the most perfect piece of Victorian architecture. Just right, I mean, it's just kind of just enough Art Nouveau and kind of easygoing design. And I mean, it's absolutely trad. I mean, that section of Chelsea, there are n number of studio windows sticking out and so on. And I was strangely confident that I would get this through. I thought I'd really designed it. A couple of carrier tids, you see, sort of like this. See, with their bum out towards the street. I thought that was fairly suitable. You can just see their bums there. So their feet. It's quite structural when you think about it. You see, like this. You see, you're holding it up like this, and you've got your feet firmly embedded in the wall. It's quite structural. So anyway, I thought I'd get these through as a couple of flagpoles and tell them that they were, you know, he was a particularly patriotic kind of guy, and he liked to show the flag from time to time and so on. I mean, you know, a flagpole, then you turn the flagpole upside down, and you know, I'm sure you could argue it. You know, I mean, there must be an argument somewhere. But they said, "Oh, well, we're refusing it because this is a semi-detached house, and I'm afraid we'd like our semi-detached house to have coherent." Came up again. This is Kensington and Chelsea this time. Coherent roofs. Roofs. So I said, of course, I couldn't agree more. See, I've kept the sill line, what it's called, the eaves line. I think that's most important, because when you're in the street, of course, you're far too close to see the roof. You know, you only just see the bit of the eaves. So I said, I've kept the eaves line. My client wanted to build a wall up here, I said, but I've kept the eaves line. I'm a very good architect. They said, oh no, we want the line of the roof to be the same. So we never really got to talking about artistic endeavour and sort of what the Art Nouveaux were about and what Victorian architecture was all about. They just wouldn't hear about it. So then I had a scheme where I was going to just draw that again on that side and put in for planning permission for the whole thing, and say, look, well, they're just the same. Just the same. Get planning permission for both, you see, and then just build one. But unfortunately, the legal eagles pointed out that I could be actually had up for misleading something or other. I was against the law of torts or the something or other. I was anyway in breach of some law, or they thought that I had to be in breach of some law, or that in fact it might cost me an awful lot of money, in which case my client, not being a man of endless means, decided that perhaps he wouldn't have a new studio. So, it looks bad for that one. Very bad indeed. This one it is bad for because she sold up the shop, actually. She should have had a new front for her shop, but she wouldn't hear reason. And what did she do? Went bankrupt. Okay, well, that's her fault, I say. Silly. Silly not to have my shop front. This is Boston 151 in the Fulham Road. You might have seen it. It sells Chloe skirts. They're very nice. They cost 120 quid, you know, they're sort of expensive. And I did this design. She only wanted the shop front done. Oh, not your inside. The inside had been done by Mr. Chow, so it had to be all right. She just wanted the front done. And this is perforated steel, of course. I suppose it was lucky she turned it down, because I wouldn't have liked perforated steel fabricated laughing in my face. You know, they tend to. And so it's quite lucky in a way. I didn't have to face down that. And these are two ventaxias, which in fact are on the shop already and are quite memorable. They're sort of up here. I just sort of thought they'd be good to put your hand in there and get your fingers chopped off. No, I didn't think that at all. I didn't think of that at all. No, I didn't. Anyway, that's Boston 151. It was a lot of perforation, so you can sort of see through the bottom ones and see less and less through as you go up, so that by the top you can't see anything through. So it covers the facade. And I think that's all right. I think it's quite sexy. This is another job that will never be done. A guy I thought was a friend of mine rung me up, said, look, I'm going into this petrol retailing business. This was about, well, it was just before, you know, the crash, the cutback, when petrol retailers started laughing and not handing out Green Shield stamps anymore. But this was the time when they were really trying to drag people off the streets. And he said, look, why don't you just think around the idea of filling stations, you know, just take it easy, you know, why don't you just send us some ideas? And so I sent him some ideas. I mean, I really worked my arse off, actually. And I suppose really it's quite an interesting thing, because it's sort of, it was such a pure thing, it was a pure question in a way. No sites. I mean, the site could be anywhere, any time. You know, you don't know where they're going to be, and so it was just a sort of exercise in, I suppose, not hang-ups. That sounds horrible. In things I like, you know, things I've always wanted to do, I suppose. And what I've always wanted to do is do drive-through lettering, have an oasis with gravel. You know, I mean, the idea of driving onto gravel. I mean, it's almost old-fashioned. You know, this was supposed to be gravel, very economical. You drove and make a fantastic scrunching noise, nothing else. And these trees would all go you know, in lights. You can imagine, lovely. And here was Mr. Quads handing out the stamps, which were then 3 a penny, or 130,000 a penny, or however many it was. And this was Mr. Cutthroat driving his fantastic motorcycle, and so on. And that was quite jolly. This one was supposed to be, I can't draw, something I just can't draw. This is one of them. This was all supposed to be glass, those little glass bricks. You know, you get those nice little glass bricks. I thought it'd be fantastic. They have to dig up the whole forecourt to put the tanks in. I thought, just dig it a little bit deeper. They can have a nice gap. Do the whole thing glass bricks and put lights underneath, and you could just drive on this fantastic light, and a light floor. They thought that was fabulous, but did they do anything about it? Not a bit of it. This is a sort of tile job. I didn't have to face the tiler on that either, but this is a sort of blue tile, dark blue tile job with all the sort of styling pieces from kind of American, this was American, well, you know where it's all from. But I thought it was worth doing. I mean, they might have fallen for it, pink fluorescence, you know. Right, well, they didn't. They rang me up. They said, "Oh, we showed them to the managing director of Gulf Oil Company or something. He thought they were terrifically good." So I just sat by the phone for 3 weeks, waiting for the managing director of Gulf Oil to ring up and say, "Look, it's a great kid," but he never did. And of course, things have changed since I designed those, so it never happened now. The same bloke had me design his boat. Well, that is built. Actually, that's built, but the reason it's up the non-photographable end, I suppose, is because I designed it and he decorated it. So in a way, it's never going to be photographed. And I don't know if you know about canal boats, but they're always designed in the most cruddy way, with people with sort of bits sticking out, and you have to sneak around this, and there's a clever flap that folds down that opens into something which turns into something else, which if you're very clever and stay seated or not seated, or you move your bum across, turns into something else and comes up and angles out, and Auntie Doris can sleep there when she comes and so on. And I went to this boatyard, and they were all like that. Every single one was just a load of rubbish. And I suppose that I got so carried away with the idea of it being dead simple, sort of really straightforward, and there was nothing folded out, nothing became something else. It was just a very relaxed boat where everything was what it was. And so I just tried to keep it absolutely plain. The only good reason for putting it up, and the only joke which I can tell you, is that the idea is, and that's the one thing that might be worth photographing, is that the bed at the front here is a waterbed. Ha! So that would give somebody a surprise anyway. I thought it was quite a nice joke. Right, that just about does it. I mean, this is a year's work. I don't know what I've been doing. Actually, I do know what I've been doing. I did some inflatables for a film called Zardos. You can go and see that. It's rather expensive at the moment. When it comes around to your local, you can go and see Zardos, our fabulous inflatables, which was a nice holiday, I suppose, basically. And since inflatables are only good for things like films and sort of jollity work, I think it's probably very suitable, very right that they should be in a film. I spent 2 weeks cooking for the Oxford Boat Race crew, and they won. Perhaps I should have put up the menus, actually. That would be a lot more interesting viewing. But suffice to say that Peking duck was the favourite, I think. And this is just to show you that that there is a moment when my drawings are still in pencil. This is what I'm doing now. So, well, got the angles in, you know. I won't tell you about that. That's very photographable. That really should be right at the other end. I'm back to actually go into the house ownership business, and this is a bit of real something. God, I'm so excited. Okay, well, that's it. And actually, it's made me incredibly depressed. I mean, I'm just not getting anything done right, you know. I mean, it's just all so ordinary, really. I'm really a bit upset. I may have to go to America somewhere. I may have to go. May just have to go and start again where people don't know me. I think, I don't know, something like that. It's really nice coming to talk to you, it really is. But when I'm sitting at home in front of my desk, it just doesn't help. There's one thing that spurs me on. The only reason really why I do any work at all is that I'm right opposite. My room looks out at Christian Cell over the way, the drawing office of Christian Cell. And I think, fuck it, every day they put in, I've got to put in 2. These bastards are sort of piling the world up with all this boring old design. Somebody's got to kind of counteract it. And in fact, my entire work is a sort of brave effort to counteract the Christian Cell kind of habitat sort of image, the whole kind of low church sort of good taste from the pulpit. I think it would be very nice actually if Conran designed a kind of low church habitat pulpit, which you could be seen sort of persuading the masses from. It would be a really nice image. Thank you very much. Did you clap? Oh, no need to clap. I'll show you the slideshow sometime. That's quite a lot of fun. I'll show it again sometime, I should say.